Lesson 13.1, Right Triangle Trigonometry. Now this is a review topic for us. Through your math that you've had thus far, we would have, or you would have, already talked about SOHCAHTOA. And SOHCAHTOA is the basic three trig functions when dealing with right triangle trigonometry. We have these proportions that we would have learned in our earlier courses, and they still hold true. There are three more, though, that we will learn this lesson, and that's the reciprocals of sine, cosine, tangent, and that is cosecant, secant, and cotangent. These are your three familiar symbols, and these are your three new symbols. Now, which ones relate to each other? Well, it's nice that the tangent of theta, which is opposite over adjacent, and its inverse, adjacent over opposite, is cotangent. So these two go together. They are reciprocals of each other. For sine and cosine, though, not quite as intuitive. The sine theta, okay, sine theta right here, its reciprocal is cosecant. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, and cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. And then cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and its reciprocal is secant. So sine's reciprocal is cosecant, cosine's reciprocal is secant, and tangent's reciprocal is cotangent. Now let's look at this right triangle and come up with the 6 trig functions from angle G. Now if we're looking from angle G, we know that trig is a math of perspective. So when we are looking from G, the opposite side is side 24, adjacent side is side 32, those are the two legs that make the right triangle, and side 40 is the hypotenuse. Now let's start out with the ones that are most familiar to us. Sine of G is opposite over hypotenuse, so 24 over 40. Now we would naturally reduce this. I'm not going to do that at this time. We just want to make sure that we can write the proper ratios. Cosine of G is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent of G is opposite over adjacent. Okay, those are the ones that we are most familiar with. Now let's go to the reciprocals of them. Now the most intuitive, the one that makes sense, is tangent. The opposite of tangent is cotangent. I shouldn't say opposite. The reciprocal of tangent is cotangent. So cotangent of G is 32 over 24. The other two are, like I said before, are not quite as intuitive. Sine of G, its reciprocal, is cosecant. So that would be 40 over 24. And then the reciprocal of cosine is secant. (40 over 32). And this is cosecant of G. Sneak that in there. Those are the 6 trig functions that you can get from looking from angle G. Again, naturally we would reduce these, but at this point, this is good. Now let's look at specific right triangles, special right triangles. We have 30, 60, 90, and 45, 45, 90. Now, this is something we've learned before. We know that if it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle, then the short leg, if the short leg is x, then the hypotenuse is twice as long, and the long leg is the short leg times root 3. If it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle, then we have the legs being equal length, and the hypotenuse being the length of the leg times root 2. We're going to use these special right triangles to find our trig functions for certain degrees. So sine of 30, looking from here, sine of 30 would be opposite over hypotenuse, and that reduces to 1/2. Cosine of 30 is adjacent over hypotenuse, so x root 3 over 2x, and that reduces to root 3 over 2. Tangent of 30 is opposite over adjacent, and that also reduces. The problem with that one, however, is that 1 over root 3 is not simplified. We actually have to rationalize this because we can't have a root in the denominator. And that will give us root 3 over 3. Then we go to sine of 45 degrees. Now we're looking from, does not matter which one we're looking from, they're going to be the same degrees. So sine of 45 is opposite over hypotenuse. Again, the x's cancel, but as before, we cannot accept a root in the denominator, so we rationalize, and that will give us root 2 over 2. Cosine of 45 is adjacent over hypotenuse, and that ends up being the same as sine of 45. Tangent of 45 degrees is opposite over adjacent, and that becomes 1. Okay. Sine of 60. Sine of 60 degrees is opposite opposite, which is x root 3. Sorry, let me take that back. Sine of 60 is opposite over hypotenuse, and that reduces to root 3 over 2. Cosine of 60 is adjacent over hypotenuse, and that reduces to 1/2. Tangent of 60 is opposite over adjacent, and that reduces to root 3. So those are the trig functions using special right triangles, and we are going to want to memorize these values for sine, cosine, and tangent of these degrees. And here I will stop with the first part of 13.1.